Hi Christine. Hi Natasha. I hope you're both well. I'm okay. I might sound a bit croaky today as I've got a cough, but I've got my hot blackcurrant, so I'm hoping that my voice doesn't give out. Although some people might say that's a good thing, to be fair. So, can you just let me know if the sound's okay? I think the picture's okay, but it's difficult to know whether anybody can hear me when I can't hear myself, if you know what I mean. It's jolly cold today. Excuse me. Can you hear me okay, Natasha? Can you just let me know? Hi Anne. Nice to see you. Hope you're well. Can somebody just please let me know if the sound's okay? Oh good, sounds okay then. Thanks Natasha. And so I brought my drink with me. I'm hoping that it'll stop me from coughing. But it is only a cough and a cold. It's nothing else. All the grandkids have had it, so I was with them on Monday looking after them, so inevitable that I'm going to get it really, isn't it? Bless them for sharing. Never mind. So, I think we'll make a sound. Thanks, Anne. I think we'll make a start. Make a sound? No, I mean make a start. Because it's, whilst it's not a difficult card, it's involved, so I'll get stuck in and then catch up with other people as they join, hopefully. So today I'm going to be making an accordion card. And this is the card that I've made for when I was doing my prep. And as you can see, I've used the new Summer Petunia floral stamps, which I absolutely love. I've used a white embossing powder on this one. I'm not using white today. I've used Lisa's Shabby Florals, large foliage, and I've used the Edge Cuts Butterfly die set. And I've just really made it a celebration of the Summer Petunia, really, because everywhere I've used a stamp, I've used the same stamp. Hi Heidi. So that's what I went for today. I haven't reached out a colour to do the centre of the flowers, so let me just get that. Best laid plans. I'll reach two because I'm not sure which one I'm going to use yet, but I will use one of them. So, quite an easy card to do. It looks involved, but it really is quite a simple card once you've got all your measurements right. So I'm going to start with what I'm going to be using today and what I've used on here before I get into the measurements, and then hopefully a few more people might have joined us. So that's the card. Now on this card I used the Dots and Spots Pastels papers. Adorable colours these are. They will do all sorts of different occasions. You could even use them for Christmas. This one and this one particularly, the blue and the brown, I think the quite Christmassy colours. If you wanted something like, you know, an alternative to the usual red and green, I think those look really nice together. So I've used the yellow on here, but for today's card I'm going to be using the Pretty Petals paper pad, because that is my absolute favourite paper pad that Lisa's bought out. I think I'm probably on my third pad of these papers. They're just fantastic. I love them. So that's what I'm using on today's card. I'm also going to be using volume 2 of the wordage sheets. They are still available on Lisa's website, thatcraftplace.co.uk, and I've got to be honest, I tend to forget about these, and I don't know why really, because these colours, because I know Lisa's produced the paper pads, I know that the colours on these pads are going to complement the paper pads perfectly, and I don't know why I keep forgetting these, but I've used them on my sample and I'm also using them on today's card, and I'm used the yellow for yesterday's and I'm using the pink today, and I just think some of the sentiments on these are just fabulous. I mean, you don't always want a birthday card, do you, or a happy Christmas or a get well. Sometimes you just want to send a card just for sending a card's sake, especially now where, you know, you want to say something really simple like, you know, be happy, drives people crazy. That's actually the sentiment that I've used today. There's just a mountain of different sentiments in here that you would use time and time again, so don't forget them like I do. So as I said, I'm also using the Edge Cuts Butterfly Flourish die set, which again is still available on the website, and I've used the middle butterfly on here. I was going to use the big one, but to be honest I thought it overpowered the front of the card and I didn't want that. I wanted this little panel to be the sort of centre of attention, if you like. So I've used the middle one of those on today's card. I've also used the background stamp. This is what I've stamped here, the Summer Petunia background. Again, fabulous stamp. You could use individual parts of this. You don't have to use it as a full background stamp. You could just use one flower out of it if you wanted to, because it is actually smaller than the main floral set. So that gives you 3 different sizes of the petunia. So you've got the large one, then the middle one, and then if you wanted to, you could cut out the small one on here, which gives you 3 different sizes of the same flower, which I think is just genius. Hi Sarah, how are you? Hi Sheila, nice to see you. So yeah, I'm using those 2. I'm not using the sentiment today. As I said, I'm using one of the wordage sheets today. So those are the stamps that I'm using. And then for the front here, I've used the large foliage and I've used the small Pretty Leaves branch on here, but I haven't used it in one piece, and I'll show you how I've adapted that in a little while. I've also used Lisa's double-sided adhesive sheets. These are perfect if you wanted to add glitter to your card without using a glue. So if you put your die onto a piece of, if you put your die onto a piece of card, but having put it on here first, I don't know what I've done with the piece I've already cut out. It's probably in my scrap box. But here, I've already put some adhesive sheet on this piece of card. If I then wanted to cut out, say, the butterfly, for example, I'd cut it out on the right side. And when I peel this back, no, I'd cut it out on this side. Talking through me, what's it? Put the die down on this side, cut it out, and then you will just be able to peel back the backing sheet off here and then add your glitter. So you just peel that back. This is sticky, so then you would add your glitter to that. And that is exactly what I've done with my butterfly for today. And I've already done this in advance because I wanted the pearl to stick. So I don't know whether you can see that. I'll just wait for my camera to catch up and I'll just take that out of the way so that there's no glare. I don't know whether you can, if I can bring that up high enough that you can see the glitter on there. I've actually used a grey card, and then on top of that, yeah, there you go. On top of that grey card, I've used the Twinkle Sprinkles interference glitter in Paradise Pink, and these were some of the first glitters that Lisa bought out, so I've added that to the grey card so that it doesn't look, not that interference glitters are going to look like they do in the pot, they never do they? That's the beauty of them. But I wanted to make sure that my little pearl stuck in the middle, because when you're gluing onto glitter, then you need to give it enough time to actually set properly, otherwise your pearl is going to fall off or move around, and you don't want that when you're using it as an embellishment. So that's why I did that ahead of time. So those are all the things I'm using today. So let's get on to some measurements. So for the base of the card, so this piece, you're going to need a piece of card which measures 10.5 by 5.25 inches. I'm working in inches because that's what I prefer. I can do centimetres, but I started in inches, so I've carried on. So 10.5 by 5.25, and then you want another piece for the inside, which is going to be your panel piece here, your accordion piece as it were, and that is 8 7/8 by 4 3/4, and then you're going to score those. So this one, I'll just bring my scoreboard up, make sure it's inches that I'm using. I'm not worried about this because it's only in pencil and I can rub it out. So on the long side you want to score at 5.25 because that's half of your 10.5. Fold it in half and make sure that it lines up, and then just score it along the back. Crease your score line so that you've got a perfect fold. Now your inner piece of card, you're going to score that 3 times. So you want to score it at 1 3/8, so it's 1 and 1 2, 1 3/8 there, and then 3 7/8, which is there, and then 6 3/8 there. Okay, so this piece here you're going to fold back on itself and crease. This piece is going to be a mounting fold because this is the piece that's going to come forward in the middle of the card here, this piece, and then this piece you're going to valley fold, and then just go along, make sure they're all level, and just double crease your score lines so that you've got perfect creases in the card. Okay, so that's your base card scored and your inside piece of card scored. So that centre line on your middle piece is going to line up with your centre line inside your base card, like so. Okay, dead easy. So obviously I'm not going to be cutting and scoring today, so I have moved on a little bit, as it were. And what you need to do next is cut a piece out of the front of your card. Now I've used, I knew there was something I was missing, I've used Lisa's nested scalloped and square dies for this, and I think I've probably used the probably the 4th one out, but it fits the card. It fits the card with about an inch border all the way around, and you need to do the same with a piece of designer paper, which again, like I said, is my Pretty Petals. Now there's a couple of ways of doing that. You can cut them both at the same time, which I tried, and you still get the stitch lines around the piece of white card even though you've cut the piece of pink paper over the top of it. So you could do them both at the same time if you wanted to. Hi Lisa. Or you could do them separately. It's a little bit more fiddly doing them separately, and the piece of white card is the one that you need the stitching to show on, because the piece of card, the piece of paper that you take out of the middle, you're not going to use on this card. You can see I've tried this a few times, and the reason there's 2 pieces like this is because I tried to cut it out both ways on here. The first way I did it, I actually cut it with this inside, and I stuck it down so that I knew it was in the right place, and then used my die. But the easiest way I found to do it was to actually cut them both at the same time. And like I said, because Lisa's dies are so fantastically, the actual die cutting is so deep, you still get the stitch lines on the white card, which came out of the middle of the card, and the pink paper, which was on top of it. You might have to prise them apart because it will sort of stick them together, but not permanently, if you know what I mean. The pressure from the plates will make them stick together, as will the stitch lines. It sort of blends them into one. But if you just put a blade or your fingernail down between the two, they will actually come apart really easily. So you've got pieces there ready cut that you can use for future projects, which is what I will do. So what I'm going to do here is just put this down. I mean, you could, if you wanted to, glue the piece of paper to your card blank and then put your die on top and cut it all out in one go like that if you wanted to. But I didn't do it like that, but it wasn't till afterwards, till I'd sort of finished what I was doing, that I thought, oh, why didn't I stick it down first and then just cut the two out? But I think, to be honest, I wanted to make sure that you'd get the stitch lines on both pieces, and the only way I was going to know that was to actually try and do it the way I've done it. So now all you need to make sure of is that you've put this the right way around, because it's only going to fit one way because of how you cut it. So it's only going to fit with a border. You'll know whether you've got it right because you've got a border all the way around the edge, which is perfect, and it fits around the middle, and you can't see the white card on the inside of that piece of paper there like that. So that just fits there perfectly. And I just love these marble effect papers. I think there's about 4 different colours in the Pretty Petals, and I just love them. I could actually do with a pack of just these marble papers because I think they're fantastic. So that's the front of your card done, and then what you're going to do is make the accordion part of your inside of your card. Now obviously you want a panel here that makes this bit move, and the way you're going to do that is using that tiny piece that we folded back on itself when we first cut out that piece of card for the middle. Okay, now what you're going to do is you're going to place it where you're going to glue it. I wouldn't glue it down yet for 2 reasons. One, you need to make sure you get the lines in the right place, and 2, I actually want to stamp the Summer Petunia flower on here, so I don't want it to overlap here, and I don't want to have to mask this card, so I'm gonna stamp that before I stick it down. But you can make this piece in readiness for putting the panel on the front. So put your piece of card in and fold it back on itself, and then you need to draw a line just slightly higher than the border of the panel you've cut out and slightly lower at the top. Okay, then take it out and put another line about, I don't know, a couple of millimetres higher and lower than the line you've just drawn. Does that make sense? I'll just do that again. So line your card up where you want it to be, and then draw a line just slightly higher than where the panel has cut out and slightly lower at the top. Open your card and draw another line slightly above the one at the top and below the one at the bottom, and then you're going to cut that out. And it's as simple as that, and all that does then is give you enough room for your panel to move inside that little window that you've cut out, so that your panel doesn't stick when you open the card. It doesn't stick anywhere. don't worry about any pencil lines showing, because these two little pieces are going to be glued on the inside, so you won't see any there. And if there is any showing when you just put the card back here, you can rub those out before you actually glue this in place. So that's going in the middle. That's going to fold back like that. So you see now you've got a flap here that isn't going to interfere with this panel here, and it's going to make that move inside that panel, and it will move freely. Okay, so before I glue this down, I just want to stamp. I'm just going to move my scoreboard because it's not the best thing to work on. I'll just move that out of the way. And before I glue this down on here, I just want to stamp the Summer Petunia on this panel here. Now I am going to mask both sides of the card, only because I don't want any overlap on my main pieces. Not that you'd see very much of them on this panel, because you're going to cover most of this panel up in a minute. But it's just, well, I don't know, better safe than sorry, really, isn't it? This masking tape, I think, is either old or just not blame ball. Excuse me. Right, so just mask that off there as well. Now I'm going to stamp this in an archival. I'll just move that out of the way before I stamp on it. I'm stamping this in an archival ink. Now, I used an archival ink yesterday when I was doing the other card. Now you can see it stained the actual stamp. It isn't going to make any difference to your stamp. It won't, that ink isn't going to come off on anything. Yes, clean it, but unless you've actually got an archival cleaner, then it's going to stain your stamps. It's as simple as that. But it won't make any difference to how they stamp and the quality of the stamp. No problem, Jill. That's internet's for you. Right, so I'm using Peony Pink. No, Pink Peony. I was reading it upside down. And the reason I went for this as opposed to a darker pink was because although I wanted you to be able to see it, I sort of wanted it more as a bit of a watermark, if you like. Hi Natalia. Hi Mary. Hi Elizabeth, no problem. So I want it more as a watermark, but I want you to be able to see it. So I want it obvious but not obvious. No, that sounds Irish, but you know what I mean. And I actually want as much of the stamp in as I can get in with all of the flower. So I want the flower bud in as well. So I'm sorry if my hand's covering some of that at the moment. Now, just give it a good press. But honestly, these stamps stamp so beautifully, the image will all be there. Okay, Anne, no problem. It seems a lot of people are having problems with internet just lately. I think it's probably because there's so many people on the internet these days that it can't cope, basically. So there you go. There's my stamped image, stamped beautifully. Not in your face, but there nevertheless. And that's exactly how I wanted it to be. And if I just take my masking paper off there, you can see that it just sits on the panel that I wanted it to sit on. So what I would do when you come to put this together is, although it's tempting to glue this part first, I would glue these parts first, purely and simply so that you know this part is in place and is in the right place. Gonna have to have a drink, excuse me a sec. Right, so I would glue mine. Now I know when I did my original I used tape, and tape's fine, but I found that using tape, I'd got nowhere to go with moving it, if you're with me. So if my card doesn't fold flat, I can't actually put any pressure on this piece of the card to make the inside sit right. So by using a wet glue, you will just get that little bit of wiggle room before it sets too much to actually move it around. So that's the reason I've gone for a wet glue this time rather than tape. So I'll hold that down there and then fold my card over, and then I can rub that into place. So I'm putting pressure where I've glued, and you can see it's sitting flat. This is what I mean when I say it wouldn't sit flat, because I used tape and I couldn't actually move this piece inside. So by doing it this way, using a wet glue, I've got room to actually, I've got time to actually move this without moving it, if you can understand what I'm trying to say. So that piece is in place. Make sure you get rid of any excess glue runs, because you don't want it sticking to this piece of card here. And then you can do your little bit of embossing. Now, you don't want to see me actually using my heat gun and embossing, but I will show you how I just embossed this little piece of card, which has come from the middle. Now, what I did was I placed my panel on my platform where the main flower is. So you see this main flower here, I wanted that to be in the centre of the panel. So I've sort of lined it up, and that's what these two pieces of paper are for, just to make sure that when I come to do today's, I've got it in the right place, and that flower is going to sit in the middle. So it's always worth just spending a little bit of time just to make sure that you've got things exactly where you want them. So if I just stamp this now, and if you're going to use a light coloured embossing powder or a clear or a white, make sure you're using a clean-ish embossing pad, because the last thing you need to do is use an embossing pad that you've used for donkey's years, has got all sorts of inks on it and everything, which then transfers onto your image, which will then transfer onto your nice clean piece of white card. And then just stamp this down. You shouldn't need to put too much pressure on, to be honest. Excuse me. Press that down, and then all you need to do is just peel it off. Now, I don't think you'll be able to see the embossing on there, so I'll just move that out of the way. Now, I did use my anti-static bag on this piece of card before I used that embossing ink to stamp that image. Now, this is brand new, Lisa's lovely little anti-static bag, which came out last week. Still available at Create and Craft, so if you missed that, then they are still there. And I'm using the fabulous new, I'm so pleased these arrived yesterday, so pleased to get that little, your Hermes driver will deliver your parcel today. And I thought, yes, I can use it tomorrow in my live, because I love it. It's just perfect. And the colour was just perfect for what I wanted to do as well. Now, as I don't know whether any of you caught Lisa's show, hopefully you did, but like she said, don't knock it too much, because there is a lot of glitter in this. Normally when you use an embossing powder, you would sort of stamp your image, put your embossing powder on, and then give it a good knock back to get the embossing powder that's loose on the top out of the way. But if you're too vicious with this, you'll lose the glitter effect. So I would just say be gentle with it. And what I found was, I've done a couple of these this morning just to make sure that the effect was what I wanted. I would heat this from underneath, because sometimes when you're using a heat gun, and I know you will all have come across this before anyway, when you heat from the top, sometimes your heat gun will blow away some of the embossing powder before it actually melts what is on the card. So in order to avoid that, I would heat it from underneath. I'm not going to heat this one because my embossing gun is, my heat gun is really quite loud. So I actually did one before I went live to be able to show you. Now I need to put this somewhere safe so that I can emboss it afterwards. Now I don't know whether you can see this on my camera. I know on Create and Craft on TV last week, their cameras caught it beautifully, but the glitter that is in this embossing powder is just fabulous. The different colours that you get because of the interference glitter that's in it, I don't know whether you're going to be able to catch it on here. You can see it a little bit, but it in real life it is amazing. I've used loads of embossing powders over the years, but I've got to be honest, this leaves them standing. It really does. It's so beautiful. I will not be using anything else. So, I'm not just saying that. They are really stunning. I actually love them. So this is going on the front. And I want it to sit so that my flower is upright, if you like. I could put it that way. But, excuse me, I actually want it to stand upright like that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is put my glue on here, and you're only gluing part of this, but there is enough. Did I do it all? No, I lied. I'm putting this, yeah, get it right. I've only done this a couple of times, so bear with. Right, I'm gluing the one half down first, okay? So I'm gluing this part down first, and then when I open it out, I will glue the second half, which is glued to the inside of my accordion piece. And you'll see what I mean in a sec. So I'm placing my panel where I cut it out of the card, because I know that that is going to be in exactly the right place, okay? No, Sarah, not doing the heating. Not on air. It's too loud. So then I want it to fold back on itself. And I know it's going to do that because it's adhered underneath here. She said, hopefully. It will be, I promise you. And then all I'm going to do is just add my glue on here to the second side so that it glues onto the back of this card here, like so. And just hold it down for a couple of seconds, and you'll see there's a tiny gap here, which means that your card is going to, and you'll lift that up, do exactly what you want it to do, and open out and close so that your panel fills your gap but also opens out so that you can see it when it stands up. So when it stands up like that, you'll be able to see it both sides. I think that's dead clever. So now you can put your panel down on the inside, because you know that everything here is in the right place and it's all going to work properly. So now I'm going to add my glue on here and glue this down to the inside of the back of the card. And I know it's going to be in exactly the right place. And that when I close it, it's going to sit right. Okay? Probably have gone across a little bit more actually, if I'm honest, but it will stand up, and it will be able, you'll be able to see the panel when it's closed and when it's open, which I think is really cool. So now this panel here, excuse me, I do apologise. So, because my base card is white, I still wanted a matted and layered piece on here, like I've got on here. But because my base card was craft on here, I could use that behind my white card that I've stamped on. That's where you'll write your little sentiment or whatever, you know, your happy birthday or hi, just sending you a card to cheer you up, whatever. Hi Tina, no problem, sweetheart. So because I wanted a matted and layered effect on here, I've gone with a contrasting card and I've gone with a dark grey. And it's the same dark grey that I stamped the butterfly in. And I've also used it around the sentiment and for the leaves. So before I put this down, before I stamp that, I'm going to just use the Petunia stamp and stamp that in the same colour, the peony pink peony, but I'm only going to stamp it in the corner because I don't want it to detract from where you're going to write your little message. I just want it to look, I just want it to add a little bit of interest really to that little panel that you're going to write on. So all I'm going to do is make sure I've got enough ink where I want it, and I'm just going to place it in the corner there, like so. And then I'm going to turn it round and I'm going to do exactly the same up at the top, just for a little bit of different interest really. You know, it doesn't serve any purpose, it's just a bit of decorative work on the inside of your card really. Okay, perfect. So you see, you don't even have to use the whole of the stamp, you can just use little bits of the stamp just to make it look different. Now on my yellow one, I actually added a little bit of colour to the inside of the flowers. Now you could spend time colouring it in with pencils or Copics or any sort of markers if you wanted to, but for quickness I decided I was just going to use one of the Wonder Brushes that Lisa brought to you a little while back. I don't think these are in stock at the moment, but I know they're coming back, so if you didn't get them, don't worry, they will be back. And I'm not using a great deal of colour, just a tiny bit, just to add a little bit of interest really to that colour, to those flowers rather. You'll have to excuse my head today, it's just not working right. I love these brushes because they just add the right amount of colour without leaving smudge marks or line marks or brush marks, and they clean off so beautifully easily. I've just got a little cloth here that I just brush the brush on after I've finished using it, just to take off any extra ink, and then that'll be ready for using on my next project. So I'm going to stick that down on there. And these panels are, because I know people like measurements, 4 5/8 by 2 3/8, which is going to fit on your inside pink accordion piece, and 4 1/2 by 2 1/4, so that fits inside your grey piece like that. Okay, so I think I'll put the white piece on the grey first and then put the grey down. I don't think the weather helps with coughs and colds and the like, does it really, to be honest? The weather can't make its mind up what it wants to do. But hey ho. Could be worse. Right. So then that's just going to sit on there like that. So you've got a little bit of the pink showing. Sorry. And it doesn't matter which way up you put this, because that's where I've added the flower both ends really, so that you can put this whichever way around you want to. It looks just as good either way. You've still got plenty of room to write a little message there. And if you needed to, you could always go on the back and write it on the back anyway, couldn't you? So that's my basis of my card. Now then, when I come to put the sentiment on, I didn't just want to add the sentiment, I wanted to make it look a little bit more interesting. So the colour of the pink paper on the worded sheets matches Lisa's Pretty Petals perfectly. And this is why I say I don't understand why I keep forgetting these worded sheets, because they match so beautifully with the pink papers that Lisa's bought out in the past. And that's going to go across the middle like that, but slightly to the side. Because the other thing that I want to add on is the small Pretty Leaves bunch from the Funky Foliage. Now, this isn't going to sit how I want it to sit as it is, because if I put it on the card now, it's going to overlap this bit, it's going to overlap the side of the card, it's not going to fit in my envelope properly. So I actually want it to just sit up that side panel. Yes, it's going to stick out a little bit, but not as much as it does now. So all I'm going to do is literally cut that first set off and put it down there. And then this second set, which I'm going to cut the bottom off, is going to sit on top of it and overlap slightly, like so. Okay? So if I just put that on, there. Now don't forget, when you're gluing these down, don't put glue over the complete leaf on this little one here, because otherwise it's going to stick to your panel. So you only want a tiny piece of glue around the bottom of that, but you can glue the whole of the leaf on the others, and a little bit on the stem. Sorry, couldn't see that, could you? A little bit on the stem, but kind of a little bit overboard there. And then place that down on your card like so. Just take a couple of seconds just for that glue to stick, but stick it will, because this this pin flare glue is bookbinding glue is superb. And then on this one, again, don't go over to the tip of this leaf, because otherwise it's going to stick to your panel. Just put the glue where you know that your leaves are going to sit. So I just want to sit it so that you can't see the stem from the set of leaves underneath. Okay, so I'm not going to the top of this leaf, but I will on these two. I actually sound worse than I feel, I think. It's because I'm talking. And my drink's gone cold now. So there's your leaves. And then the butterfly will sit over the top. So it's going to hide the bottom of that stem. Now normally with these butterflies I would just glue in the middle and lift the wings, but because this has got glitter on it, I don't want to lift the wings because I don't want that glitter to crack, because it is quite thick. I did put quite a bit on, so I'm actually only going to put it so that it sits on the card and sits flat like that. It will stick, and don't worry about the little bits of glue coming from underneath the butterfly. They will dry clear anyway, so you won't see those. Okay, and then I'm going to put my sentiment at the top. And again, I've matted and layered this 2 or 3 times. I've used the grey card that I've used to cut this. I've used the pink worded sheet, and I've used the Pretty Petals marbly paper. I used the cut off from this to mat and layer my sentiment. And just put that at the top, like that. take my glue off the edge. I always put too much glue on. It's because I don't want it to fall off. So, there you go. There's your accordion card with your window panel. A little bit of interest on the front, just to give it a little bit of something different. And then, obviously, because it's me, I'm just going to put a little pearl in the middle there. And I'm using grey pearls because I want these pearls to complement the grey that I've used on the card. And put my pearl in there. And I don't know about you, but I just think these little finishing touches just really finish a card off and sort of bring it to life, if you like. You could leave it there if you wanted, but I just think just that little bit extra just makes all the difference in the world. So like I say, if you didn't get these glitters, these beautiful summer glitters, I really think you should. They are still in stock, and of course I couldn't have one set without the other set, so I bought them both. Because I just, actually, it's not the pot, it's not the glitters and everything that I like. I just like collecting the pots. I've got hundreds of them now. I'm sure Sarah's the same. It's not what's in them, it's the little pots. Kidding. So if you didn't get them, go and have another look, and if you can afford to, treat yourself, because the effect you get with this glitter, with having that interference glitter in, this embossing powder with the interference glitter in, is amazing. I really wish the camera would pick it up, but it's not going to. You need super duper television cameras for picking up stuff like this, but it really does finish a card off. They're beautiful. They're really beautiful. So if you can afford them, treat yourself, go and buy them. Lisa will be with you on Sunday evening. She's just going to be doing a live show preview of something really extra special. It's a first for Lisa. It's beautiful. It's so easy to work with. Trust me, you will make some beautiful, beautiful projects with what she's bringing to you next week. Thank you, Lisa. So Sunday 7 o'clock, I will put an event banner in the group, probably this afternoon, and you won't want to miss it. There are some amazing things on the next show, things that will work with your existing slimlines. I'm not saying anything else, but there are some sneaky peeks coming up from the design team that I know you're really going to love. So I've rambled on enough. I can hardly talk anymore, so I'm going to go. Don't forget to join Claire on Tuesday, Heidi Wednesday, and I'll be back with you next Friday. Don't forget Lisa on Sunday at 7 o'clock, and don't forget that she's back on Create and Craft on the 17th. I didn't write the show times down, I'm really sorry, Lisa. But there are, is it a double show, Lisa, on the 17th? I can't remember. But whatever it is, whether it's a double show, 2 single shows, you are going to love it. Trust me. Right, I'm going now. Thank you very much for joining me. Sorry I've rambled on a bit. And I'll see you next week. Don't forget Lisa on Sunday. Thank you, Elizabeth. 12:45. Amazing. Thank you very much. Okay, folks, I'm going now. Love you and leave you. Thanks very much for joining me. See you again next week. Bye for now.